The end of each AFL season sees numerous awards being handed out. Obviously, the Brownlow is footy's night of nights, with the game's best and fairest player of the competition announced, as voted on by the umpires. It's a major television spectacle and is a glamorous event with the players' partners also attracting a lot of attention. But there are plenty of other awards too. There are the individual club best and fairest, Goal of the Year, Mark of the Year, each newspaper's Player of the Year, the All-Australian team, the Player of the Year voted on by the coaches, then by the players, plus a heap more. But one of the most prestigious, and my personal favourite end of season award, is a celebration of the competition's young talent, the Rising Star Award. The Rising Star is a really positive award, and I always think that it comes across as being a genuinely exciting time for all the young players' bright futures in the game. While the Brownlow medal is almost exclusively a midfield medal, the Rising Star has been given to people of all positions, with past winners in just the last couple of years including Luke Jackson, Sam Walsh and Jaden Stevenson. Unlike other awards that are open for everybody, there are very specific requirements that must be met to win the Rising Star. To be eligible for nomination, the player must be aged 20 or younger on 1 January of that year and played 10 or fewer AFL games at the start of the season. Each round of the season, a player fitting the criteria will be nominated, and at the end of the season, the voting panel will each choose their top 5 most impressive players of the year to determine a winner. The most recent Rising Star Award when this video was made was won by Melbourne's Luke Jackson, and the voting panel was made up of 11 members. These included people such as Gil McLachlan, the CEO of the AFL, AFL legends like Kevin Bartlett, Glenn Jakovich and Nick Riewoldt, and then AFL talent manager Kevin Sheehan. The number of people in the voting panel has changed over time. In 1997, when the votes for the Rising Star were released for the first time, there were only 6 voters, while all of the unanimous awards have been won with 9 voters. One thing that has been pretty consistent, regardless of the amount of people voting in the award, has been the Rising Star is very rarely close. While there is always a little bit of controversy on who receives individual round nominations, especially near the end of the season, the choice of the winner is reached pretty convincingly, almost every time. Here is a chart of all the Rising Star winners with the number of votes they received, along with the person who came second and how many votes they received. Take a look through that list. You'll see lots of great players in both first and second place, but the gap between first and second is usually pretty considerable. The 3-vote difference between Paul Hazelby and Adam Romanowskis, and then the 4-vote difference between Justin Kajitsky and Daniel Kerr are exceptions rather than the rule. Since the increase in the panel size in 2004 to 9 members, the 7-vote wins that Joel Selwood, Reece Palmer and Dyson Heppel have had are the closest the count has ever been. Well, except for the 2014 Rising Star Award, the closest award there has ever been. First, let's take a look at some of the nominees for this year's award. While there are plenty here who have carved out good AFL careers, there are some genuinely great players among this list. Guys like Zach Merritt, Matt Crouch, Marcus Bontempelli, Joe Danaher, Josh Kelly, Jake Stringer and Jake Lloyd are just some of the players who have been amongst the very best in our game. But when they are young and eligible for the Rising Star, who shines brightest then does not mean that they'll turn out to be the best players, which means guys like Merritt, Crouch and Stringer didn't receive a single vote at the end of the season. There were a few serious contenders for the award. Amazingly, out of the 10 people in the voting panel, 4 different players were chosen as people's best, which is crazy when you think about it. Let's go through the 4 who received 5 votes from a member of the voting panel, which is the most someone can give out. There was a nominee for round 4, Luke McDonald from the Kangaroos. McDonald, who had just joined as a father-son, collected 20 touches and took 5 marks in a 43-point win over the Swans. He was making an impression straight away for the team in a few victories. There was a nominee for round 6, James Aish from the Lions. The 18-year-old had 25 touches, 12 contested, and a goal in the Lions' first win of the season. Then there was round 9 nominee Lewis Taylor, also from the Lions. The diminutive Taylor had 20 disposals, 8 marks and 3 tackles, building on a consistent start to the year. And finally, the most well-known of these contenders, round 13 nominee Marcus Bontempelli from the Dogs, who his 22nd touch set up Jason Tutt to win the game against the Pies. So there are our 4, McDonald, Aish, Taylor and Bontempelli. What are the arguments for each of them to win? McDonald played a defensive role, which is a less stats-based position, but cemented a spot in defence in a finals-based team in North Melbourne. From his first season, it was already obvious that he was going to be a captain, due to his leadership and courage on display. He also only missed just the one game, which showed his durability. Aish had the most tackles of any of the nominees, and held down a key role in the midfield beyond his young years. He was in the top 5 for the Lions in tackles, contested touches and overall disposals, and had the second most disposals among all nominees. His teammate Taylor had a great season playing off half forward, and was one of just 2 nominees to play every single game of the season. Out of the nominees, Taylor had the most disposals, 3rd most score involvements, 5th most contested possessions, and kicked 12 goals. His pace, consistency and importance to the Lions was a massive plus in his favour. Bontempelli has clearly become the most accomplished player out of the group, but actually averaged the least amount of disposals out of the 4 in this debut season. His case was built on an incredible highlights package for somebody with his great size. He was only 18 and one of the youngest players in the league, and kicked 15 goals. Bont only played 2 games before round 10, but finished the year strongly in the second half of the year when the voting actually occurs. The X Factor he showed, and his ability to carry the Bulldogs to victory made him a great candidate. However, by only playing 16 games, it would have been a very low number to win the award from. All of these had a pretty solid case to win really, and reading votes from the panel is very interesting reading. Bontempelli was the only one to receive votes from everyone of the panel. Think of how amazing that is. The Rising Star pool was so wide that year, and people had such different opinions. There was only one person clearly in everyone's top 5. Aish only received 19 votes, but Cameron Wing judged him the very best of the year. The rest of the top 3 were separated by just 7 votes. McDonald came 3rd with 32 votes, even though Warren Treadray and Kevin Bartlett thought he was the very best. The top 2 were separated by a single vote. While more people had Bontempelli in their top 5, Lewis Taylor was given top marks by 5 different judges, ultimately meaning Lewis Taylor pipped Bont by a single vote, 39 to 38, awarding Taylor the NAB Rising Star. It was the closest Rising Star race ever, and I'll be surprised if we ever see such an even field again. Taylor, Bontempelli, McDonald and Aish are super different players, but they all had a chance to win it. And that's what I love about the Rising Star. They have all had different levels of success in their career after 2014, but their race for the Rising Star was an absolute classic. I love it when there's lots of great young talent in the game, so I hope there'll be another brilliant battle of amazing young guns for the Rising Star again soon, because young players doing well make the game better.